Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 3 of the Tour de France. It's 195 kilometers and it's the first sprinter stage at the 2023 Tour de France. So you know it's going to be a big time showdown at the end of today's stage. 4 categorized climbs, small ones, not difficult for the sprinters for them to get over. And then they're going to leave Spain and enter France with about 60 kilometers to go. Once we get into 50 kilometers to go, things are going to start getting exciting. But let me take you back first to yesterday's stage 2, because the commentators on GCN were talking about how Victor Lafay won yesterday's stage, and they said it was a surprise attack up the left side, and they just didn't have the legs to respond at the time. That's not quite exactly how it happened. What really happened as we're coming into the finish of yesterday's stage, you see the attack from Tom Pidcock. Wout van Aert covers that. Then you see the attack from Skilmos. Wout van Aert looks back to see if someone's going to cover it. They don't, so Wout van Aert covers it. And now you're getting in to like under 2 kilometers to go. So Wout van Aert's done 2 big attacks. Can he cover a third? Of course he can. And it's not a problem if another attack goes right after Skilmos' attack, because then there's a little bit of time for Wout van Aert's legs still to recover. But instead, it's Wilco Kelderman on the front. With 1 kilometer to go, though, with the attack from Victor Lafay, what's happening is Wout van Aert can't cover this move now. Not physically. Tactically, he can't cover it. If he covers a move, that the attack's going up the left side with 1 kilometer to go, if he covers it and catches him with 700 or 600 meters to go, even worse, 500, Victor Lafay will back off the gas, and then the group from behind of about 22, 23 riders, they're coming fast. He'll get swarmed, and Tadej Pogačar will most likely win the stage. So when the GCN commentators are talking about Victor Lafay's attack being so strong, it was tactically perfect. It had nothing to do with the strength until after the tactical factors took into play. Then the power of Victor Lafay holding off Wilco Kelderman, that's where the strength comes into play. But if you say no one had the legs to follow the attack, that's not exactly accurate. Wout van Aert, Tadej Pogačar can follow it, but whoever follows that move, they're going to get brought back. Now, what should have happened is, like I told you guys yesterday on the Butterfly Effect, if Jumbo-Visma were all in on the stage win, Jonas Vingegaard had to drive it into the line for that 700 meters to get Wout van Aert closer, so that once you're under 300 meters to go, 250 would be the best, and Jonas Vingegaard's wrapped up Victor Lafay, Wout van Aert can start his sprint. Even if Victor Lafay's just got about a 10-meter gap, Wout van Aert can start his sprint, close the gap, and win the stage. Then you don't get the drama that we saw after yesterday's stage 2, where Jonas Vingegaard's getting asked, are you a teammate there of Wout van Aert? Are you a loyal teammate? And of course, Jonas Vingegaard says, well, I sat on Tadej Pogačar so the group can come back. But tactically, that's a smart decision to sit on him and bring him back, and then hopefully some guys from the group behind of 23 riders can attack and steal time bonuses, or Wout van Aert wins the stage and takes time bonuses. So when Jonas Vingegaard is saying, well, I did my part, I covered Tadej Pogačar, that's not exactly right. He did his part to protect the general classification, but he didn't do his part to look after Wout van Aert. Otherwise, Wout van Aert wouldn't have been on the front of the group all the way down the descent, and certainly wouldn't have been the one covering the attacks going up the false flat up to the finish of yesterday's stage 2. Either way, after yesterday's stage finish, there's going to be a little bit of drama in the Jumbo-Visma team. Now, they said in the interview, Wout van Aert in today's stage 3, he said, well, we read those comments and then we kind of laugh them off. But that's exactly what you would say to the press. Now, I remember back in 2008, we had Levi Leipheimer on the team, and they were doing the Tour of Spain. I wasn't part of it. I had a broken collarbone at that moment, so I missed the selection of the team. But when I met back up with the teams at the next races, I started hearing about all of the chemistry problems at the Tour of Spain when Alberto Contador was winning the general classification, and Levi Leipheimer wouldn't just get on the front and sell out, always pretended to have a little bit of bad legs and then still somehow finish second on the general classification instead of being there for Alberto Contador to blow up the group on the final climbs. Instead, it was Alberto Contador that had to do the big accelerations on the final climb and drop everyone, which is a bit risky, instead of if you just put another guy on the front. But that is a chemistry problem with a rider that someone like Levi Leipheimer, I don't think Jonas Vingegaard is that type of rider. I really think if the management there of Jumbo-Visma had gone up and said, hey, if the scenario happens where we get under the last 1K, we don't expect you to work from 30 kilometers out. We don't expect you to be on the front going down the descent of the Jaskibel. We don't expect you to cover the hard attacks from anyone other than Tadej Pogačar. But if we can get into 1 kilometer to go, we know general classification's not going to get affected too much, with the exception of the time bonuses, that is. Then we know you're safe. We know there's not going to be a time gap. It would be really great if you can pull for 700 meters on the front, help Wout van Aert win, and you know Wout van Aert will help you back later when we get into the mountain stages. We saw that last year in 2022 Tour de France, when they were going up all the final climbs, and Wout van Aert still had legs to be there on Oudecamp to drop Tadej Pogačar, so Jonas Vingegaard can solo and win that stage up Oudecamp. So we know the big guy, Wout van Aert, is not selfish, and I don't believe Jonas Vingegaard is selfish, but maybe there needs to be a little bit more communication. All right, let's get started here on stage 3, because this is going to be a magical finish. If you don't have time to watch the whole stage, you missed nothing. You don't want to watch the whole stage because not much happened. When they hit kilometer 0, Neilson Powless wearing the KOM jersey, he goes up the road, and Laurent Pichon from Arkea Samsic attached on his wheel. With about 145 kilometers to go, we'll see a radio message from the Director Sportif of EF Education, and he's telling Neilson Powless to tell Laurent Pichon that don't worry, I'll still work a little bit with you after the final KOM, so you're not up there doing work with me now and then I'm going to leave you all by yourself at the finish. But he says, tell him you'll do some work as long as the speeds aren't crazy fast. Well, of course the speeds are going to be crazy fast to the Director Sportif at EF Education. This is the Tour de France. It's the first sprint stage. What do you think? They're going to just let you ride in at 32 kilometers an hour all the way in the finish? So, of course. But the EF Education Director basically wants Neilson Powless to lie to Pichon, a type of Pinocchio lie, right? Well, honestly, could be, I don't know, a little bit this way. Yeah, he might be around the corner. You know, something like that we saw on Shrek is what the EF Education Director wants Neilson Powless to say. When you know after the last 4th KOM, once they start getting into the San Sebastian area with 80 kilometers to go, Neilson Powless is going to set up, because he'd have to be ridiculous to try to go all the way to the line when Neilson Powless could keep the KOM jersey later here in this Tour de France. Well, as each of the KOM competitions come up, Arkea Samsic gives all of them Neilson Powless, and he celebrates big time to the fans after the line with thumbs up and 2 arms raised up like he won the stage. But this is a good moment to have, so you might as well enjoy it. Behind what's happening, well, with about 135 kilometers to go, we see attack from Victor Lafay, the winner of yesterday's Stage 2 Tour de France. He's going up the road because he's in the race leader's green jersey, and he's trying to hold it for a couple more stages and pick up some maximum points here with 127 kilometers to go at the sprint line competition. Up front, it was Pichon that got maximum points, followed second by Neilson Powless, and then Lafay holds off the peloton to get 3rd place bonus points here at the sprint competition. Behind what was happening in the peloton, well, it was a bit interesting. These full sprint line competitions mid-stages are always exciting to watch. This was the only thing worth watching at about 127 kilometers to go. We see Alpecin de Koenig. We're behind the Trek Segafredo, Lidl Trek team up front leading out with Quinn Simmons, and then we see Alpecin de Koenig get a little lost with their lead-out guys, always getting trapped, going the wrong direction. Then when the sprint starts proper, Mads Pedersen's at the front. He's got a fantastic lead-out. Look back about 4 or 5 spots back there. That's Jasper Philipsen that starts his sprint. Little too late. 4th place position will be Mads Pedersen. 7th place will be Jasper Philipsen, and you got to start asking yourself, Alpecin de Koenig, that looked a little rough right here. I hope you do a better job at the end of today's stage. Well, we'll get to see in about 126 kilometers to go. Up front, there's still some more KOM competition. Neilson Powless is taking them all in, celebrating big time. Then with about 80 kilometers to go, as they get into San Sebastian, Neilson Powless is going to pull the plug. With about 75 kilometers to go, we start seeing some of the reasons why the riders have been having flat tires. As we see Lutsenko from Astana, he pulls over with the rear flat tire, and then he points out the tack that's still stuck in his tire there to the fans looking on the side of the road, as all the fans are peering over, looking at his wheel. It's kind of funny, but he gets a new bike and starts back in, and he'll catch back up to the peloton. Now, with 50 kilometers to go, things start getting interesting because it's curb to curb in the peloton, and they're getting nervous. All the big teams lined out. 40 kilometers to go, they wrap up Laurent Pichon from Arkea Samsic, and now the full stage victory is up for grabs. 30 kilometers to go. The road's narrowing just a little bit, and you see it's curb to curb still. Then we get into 18 kilometers to go, and up on the radio is the Pseudo Quick-Step Director Sportif telling Remy Cavagna, get to the front. Well, as you can see, Remy Cavagna is on the left side of the road drilling it for Pseudo Quick-Step that are lined up with all their guys, with the exception of the tractor, Tim de Klerk, who did an amazing job throughout today's stage. He had some help from Liddell Trek that rode a lot in today's stage. Albacine de Koenig, of course, were on the front. So with all those sprinter teams, you knew the group was going to get pulled back. Now we're going under 10 kilometers to go. Look over on the right side of the road. That's Thies Benoot. Thies Benoot's got 7 Jumbo-Visma guys lined up on the right side of the road. He's in a full sprint trying to keep Wout van Aert in good position, and Jonas Vingegaard, last year's Tour de France winner. Look over to the left side of the road. Pseudo Quick-Step is looking marvelous over there. Look at the bands on all the arms there. You see the French road champion. You see the road world champion bands. You see the Belgium champion from Yves Lamparts. And back to film up just a hair, Fabio Jakobsen's wearing the European road champion jersey too. So you know there's some power on the left side of the road. 6.5 kilometers to go. It's time for the Frenchman world road champion Julian Alaphilippe to start working on the front. He's going full gas. Look over to the right as we scan over to that side. Albacine de Koenig is flying up past Jumbo-Visma. Wout van Aert has Jonas Vingegaard in front of him, and he's like, I don't want this guy in front of me again after yesterday's stage 2. So he moves around the right side of the field and comes up behind the Albacine de Koenig train. Now, with about 5 kilometers to go, today's race starts getting really interesting with roundabouts after roundabouts after roundabouts. In 2 kilometers, they got a complete U-turn, and they'll start going up a slight drag. Now, as we get into these first roundabouts, it's going to be Ineos Michael Kwiatkowski that comes through with about 5.1 kilometers to go. Only problem is, Michael, there's nobody on your wheel. He looks back, realizes they're not, and he'll pull off, and then it's time for Pseudo Quick-Step to return to the front. Yves Lampart's doing a solid job coming into about 2.2 kilometers to go. He'll ease up just a little bit as they come down the slight drag into the U-turn. They'll come out of the U-turn with about 2.1 kilometers to go, and now it's time for Casper Asgreen to go to work. With the drag going up the hill, they'll come up to the left turn at 1.7. They'll go through this left, and then things get exciting right here. We know it's Michael Morkov, the #1 lead-out man in the European peloton, and he's got Fabio Jakobsen on his wheel with Casper Asgreen in front. Over to the right side of the road, Intermarché's Mike Teunissen is starting to throw down, and he's got the Eritrean on his wheel, Biniam Girmay. Biniam Girmay's locked onto his teammate's wheel. Mike Teunissen's going full gas from the right side over to the left. Look what's happening now. Michael Morkov has opened the gap to Casper Asgreen because he's done the math. 1.7, 1.5 kilometers to go is a long ways when you only got 3 riders left and 2 are lead-out guys, and Casper Asgreen's already been on the front, so he's opening up the gap. Mike Teunissen's coming into the front of the peloton. Then look over to the right side. That's Peter Sagan that followed Intermarché train. Now he's backing off because he's looking over left and he sees three Albacine de Koenig riders coming up the middle of the peloton here. He'll look over, give a little elbow. This is called professional courtesy here because we're talking about 1.5, 1.7 kilometers to go when Peter Sagan moves over right just enough. So Jonas Rickert, followed by Mathieu van der Poel, followed by Jasper Philipsen's coming up the middle of the peloton fast. And Peter Sagan would like to follow that train, so he gets out of the way. Up front, Mike Teunissen's flipping his elbows. He's had all he can do. Now we're coming into the Flamme Rouge. It's 1 kilometer to go. Casper Asgreen's got about a 2-second gap, but now it's Albacine de Koenig on the front. Jonas Rickert. Rickert is doing big time pulls. This is the time to sell out. They have planned it perfectly. If I back the film up, back to around 6, 7, 8 kilometers, 9 kilometers to go, Albacine de Koenig was right behind Jumbo-Visma, but now it's time to take the front because it's 1K to go. Jonas Rickert is going full gas. They go into 900 meters to go as it's a left turn there. We see it's Jonas Rickert going full gas and Casper Asgreen from Pseudo Quick-Step coming out of the turn. This is marvelous tactics right here from behind Jonas Rickert because it's Mathieu van der Poel, and he's realized there's trouble brewing because Casper Asgreen's coming through the left, going fading all the way right. And Jonas wants to pass him right. Jonas goes right, but guess what? Mathieu van der Poel leans the bike hard left and goes over to the left side there of Casper Asgreen. As Jonas Rickert goes to the right, he locks up with Casper Asgreen, and Asgreen does everything he can to hold the bike up right. Matthew van der Poel went left along with Philipsen on his wheel, and then they'll come back together with about 800 meters to go. At this point in time, we're coming into the finish. Three Alpecin de Koenig riders are still on the front, and Jonas is throwing down. 650 meters to go. Jaco Alula starts coming into the picture. Right back there, that's Luka Mezgits and Dylan Groenewegen, Tour de France stage winner on his wheel, going full gas. They're coming just before 600 meters to go. As we see, there's going to be chaos. Now look in the back there, we're going to see all of a sudden that it's Michael Morkov that's going to bump hard onto the shoulder there of Dylan Groenewegen. He's going to come off that shoulder hard, go over to the left, hit Phil Bauerhaus. That's going to bring Michael Morkov out of the picture, but at the same time he's hitting Phil Bauerhaus, look at the picture again. Just right of him, that's his sprinter Fabio Jakobsen, and he's coming together with Caleb Ewan on the right side of the road. So Pseudo Quickstep's getting held up. Right as they're getting held up, well, we're reaching about 600 meters to go, and Matthew van der Poel has started to take the front. He's going full gas, and at 375 meters to go, it's the final chicane into the finish of today's stage 3. Matthew van der Poel's leading into it. We're at just about 275 meters to go. As Matthew van der Poel's starting to die, look just behind Jasper Philipsen, his sprinter. Well, that's Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert's starting his acceleration because he knows when you come out of the chicane, you're going to go left first into it, then you're going to go right, and it's going to go right, and then right almost all the way to the line to about 75 meters to go, where it'll open up somewhat, kind of, sort of anyways. So Wout van Aert knows he needs to get by the wheel of Jasper Philipsen. Jasper Philipsen up front knows that Matthew van der Poel is done at just under 275 meters to go. As the big guy's pulling left, Jasper Philipsen starting to sprint. Look when he does. Wout van Aert's already about half a bike length up on Jasper Philipsen, but Philipsen is now going straightest line he possibly can through the middle of this chicane with still a right bend to go. Well, that means if there's a right bend to go, Wout van Aert needs to clear the handlebars there of Jasper Philipsen. He can't, and as the fencing comes up with about 100 meters, 125 meters to go, Wout van Aert pulls the plug and cancels any chance of winning today's stage and backs off the throttle. Jasper Philipsen stays on it, but by now he's starting to get delirious at the front. 25 meters to go, the fencing comes out again. Look how he's got to lean his bike again to the left to hold it upright so he doesn't run into the fence. 10 meters to go. He's getting super delirious. He starts throwing his bike. He's throwing his bike way before the line, but the group coming up behind, they're gaining a little bit. They can't catch him. He'll coast across the line to take the first stage victory here at the 2023 Tour de France for Alpecin de Koenig. He lets out a huge roar, followed by another one, arms in the air, punching the chest and celebrating a big-time victory. Second on the stage, Phil Bauerhaus. Third with the bike throw, that was Caleb Ewan. Fourth on the stage, Fabio Jakobsen. Wout van Aert has to settle for fifth on today's stage after he sat up with 100 meters, 75 meters to go in today's stage. But after the stage, do we really know for sure if Jasper Philipsen won today's stage? Well, there's going to be a little bit of controversy as the officials have to review the tape. We saw just after the finish that Jasper Philipsen got some smooches from his lady there, and then when they get up to the podium, the news is starting to get delivered that maybe Jasper Philipsen hasn't won. So everybody's huddled over the shoulders there of Jasper Philipsen. He's got his lady there. He's got two-time Tour de France champion just to the left. That's Tadej Pogačar and his director on the right, checking out the video as all of a sudden the expression of joy on Jasper Philipsen's face is starting to dwindle and looking a whole lot less happy as he knows the officials might take his stage 3 victory win away at this moment still. Now there's a lot of time going by, enough so that I went up to the kitchen and started making me some egg burritos because I knew there was going to be a delay here. About the time I finished the egg burritos, the officials got the word out to Jasper Philipsen that he won today's stage 3. So he's up on the podium celebrating another Tour de France victory here for Jasper Philipsen. Congratulations. When I dissect the finish of today's stage, guys, it was a clean sprint, as clean as you can possibly make it. If the officials are going to put in a chicane and have the fencing come out hard on the right side, the straight line is what they're allowed. If you're looking from the view coming down, the white paint on the road sometimes can confuse you, but as you come out of that left chicane, the straight line, just as Jasper Philipsen said in his interview, he took the shortest line possible, which is allowed in the professional peloton when you're sprinting. You need to hold your line. His line was coming straight from the left to go straight, fastest line possible to the finish of today's stage 3, which he did. And kindly, he even left enough room on the fencing there so Wout van Aert didn't crash. So in my book, he won 100% clean, doesn't come any better, and it was very impressive. The whole train from Alpecin to Koenig today was amazingly done. If you have time to watch the stage, don't bother watching from kilometer 0 because nothing happened. But if you want to watch the stage and be excited, turn it on with about 10 kilometers to go and you'll be entertained throughout today's stage 3. Make sure you guys like and subscribe for tomorrow's stage 4 of the Tour de France because we got another field sprint to come. See you soon on tomorrow's Butterfly Effect for stage 4.